All right, and we are live. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Ask Me Anything from the BYOB Money School. I'm Stephen Nagy. We'll be hosting the show along with the BYOB Money Mentors and Shauna. So we're here to answer all your questions. So get your questions in the chat box. Anything around infinite banking, investing, real estate, the markets. I don't know. What do you guys want to talk about? It's happy hour. That's why we're here. We're here to answer your questions. Looking forward to it. We will be back in 14 seconds to do a quick around the horn of who's who and then get down to business. All right, welcome back. Welcome to Ask Me Anything. So if you guys notice, I'm trying to get my radio DJ voice going because my son has a PTA auction, a donation auction thing going on right now. And one of the items up for auction is a spot on the local radio station 95.5 morning show. And so I'm bidding on that right now. I'm hoping I'm going to win. It ends tomorrow. And if I win, I'm going to be on the morning show as a guest DJ. So I'm going to start practicing that DJ voice here today with all of you. So if you're tuning in to the BYOB 95.5, my name's DJ Stephen Nagy, Real Slim Shady. Do you hear me, Dexter? All right, guys, we're going to pass this around over to Mr. Brian Fouts. What's up, Brian?
Hey, everybody, Brian Fouts here. Yep. In the last couple of weeks, I don't know if anybody else here, but a lot of catch up, just buried in emails. A lot of stuff going on. So yeah, I feel like I'm kind of caught up right now. So I also found out that I have something called frozen shoulder. So found that out yesterday. So now I'm trying to figure out how to get my shoulder working so I can have fun this summer. So
go out in the sun.
Maybe move to Florida. Yeah, real quick. It's hot.
Not that kind of frozen. Dang it.
I was actually that's awesome. They just shared that, Fouts. I was wondering about you today and wondering about your shoulder, and I didn't even get a chance to ask you and let us know. So I'm Jason Sipple. I'm down here in the City Beautiful. Blessed to be here with all of you as always. Ask us questions, or we will just tell you stories. And that's how it's going to go. So over to Ms. Bree, who is in another cold spot in the U.S., I believe, as well. So.
That I am. Hello, I am Bree. I am Joe's warden, as you can tell. I help manage HELOC Joe's calendar, but I'm also part of the team because I've been doing IBC for a few years up here in the cold northern area of Alaska. So I'm looking forward to answering all your guys' questions. Bring them at us. Wonder where everyone else is.
We just lost Carson and Steven, so Mr. Radio guy got canceled. He already got canceled.
We got this. We got Shauna and Mama Bear here. She can help us.
Yeah. So. Get those questions in there.
We got a couple questions. And then I'm Shauna. I'm up here in New York with HELOC Joe and Chris Noggle. We all kind of live in this little. I get the hills. Joe gets the middle, and Chris is up in the city. So that's kind of where we're at. And then Mr. Craig Yenny, you hosted Wealth Wednesday webinar today. How was that?
Yeah, I think we had a good time. Went over some of the strategies on when and how to expand your infinite banking system. So, yeah, just talking about the pitfalls going too fast and how to kind of do it in a methodical way and have purpose and strategy behind it. So hopefully that was useful for the crowd.
It's useful for me. I love hearing that. I mean, that's always a question that people have, right? Is when is it time to expand my warehouse of wealth? When does it make sense? Some people want to go real fast because they see the value. They feel like they have to catch up. So if that's where you're coming from, don't do that. If you feel like you're catching up, you're behind, that's not the strategy you need. Right, Craig?
Yeah, so we kind of focused on growing too fast and doing things that are unnatural that kind of, gets to the point where you could blow up the system. And as Shauna called it, the house of cards fall. So thanks, Tess. Great to see you there. I'll see you next week. And we'll see Shane next week, too.
Yes. I'm going to kick off the questions with Damien. So Damien Robinson is our merchant mariner. So sometimes you see him on here every few weeks, and he goes MIA because he's out there doing all crazy sorts of things and eating ramen like I like to eat too. And Damien, I have a question for you. So I brought up to Craig that you're mailing us a shipment. It's supposed to arrive tomorrow. And then the next 2 Wednesdays we're kind of missing because of Money Tank next week. And then Chris is at a different event the following week. Does it need to be refrigerated? That's the question, is does this package need to be refrigerated? But we're going to plan on opening your gift to us live a couple weeks from today. All right. Gerald Russell is saying, my wife and I have a $20,000 policy apiece. How can I get going with a low income?
Couple questions on this one. What does $20,000 mean? So when you say that, do you mean death benefit? Do you mean dumping? Do you mean premium? What's the $20,000 mean? And then as far as low income, just we'd have to know what that number is, to be honest.
And what does that, and sometimes, and thank you. I mean, Brian, that's the truth. I don't understand the question fully. So if you can give us a little more context, we can help you better, get a little more clear. And a lot of times what we have found, and I know that we've talked about this, so I can speak for all of us, is it doesn't really matter how high or low your income is. It really matters what are you doing with the money? How much are you keeping of it? And how much are you paying yourself? Because all we're changing in infinite banking is that one thing always, is where are you storing your money so you can build an opportunity fund, so you can take back control of whatever the financing needs are. And look, we got HELOC Joe coming in.
I've been waiting patiently, and then Carson popped in, and I'm like, didn't you see me? Hello. And then I started doing this.
If you want to make Joe laugh, just start doing this. All right, Joe?
All right, so more questions from Mr. Bill. What's up, Bill? How you doing?
Doing fabulous. I had to get ready. That's why I was a couple minutes late, because I have an in-person after this. So not only does my warden keep me on for 6 hours a day, but I get to do it all night too.
And that's a lucky person you get to meet in person. Not all of us get to do that. So that's awesome.
Didn't somebody talk to Joe about boundaries? Didn't we have that conversation once? I don't know. Maybe.
He calls me at 11 p.m. partying with clients all the time. What are you talking about, boundaries?
Joe is like a ranch in Wyoming. The boundaries are wide and vast.
And all of
Joe
my
has never been
clients know
described as a ranch in Wyoming before.
And all my clients know it, because I'm always there for them. So.
All right, Justin is asking, are all of you going to Dallas?
Well, you know I am. Buffalo Trace, get it ready, brother.
I am not. I will not be there.
I will be there. Joe will be there. Shauna will be there.
Yep.
Were you flying in from Alaska?
You know, I'm not, but Joe and I were just talking today. If you guys could set up one of those iPads on the stands with the mobile wheels, I could be there in spirit and kind of face to face.
Yeah.
That's the go-to until next year, probably.
Hey, next event, let's do it in Anchorage.
That too, yeah. During the summer,
in December,
when it's semi-warm.
I love it. And then actually there is, if anybody wants to come, we did just open up virtual tickets too. So that is an option for people who want to join us through Zoom. Brandon is saying, is it possible to set up your insurance policy with trust as the policy holder?
Yes, but it's a lot easier to put it in your name and then transfer it after.
Mm-hmm.
How much easier are you talking?
A lot.
Like one page, isn't it?
The transfer is one page just to flip it over. But in order to set it up with the trust, there's a lot of documentation, a lot more than just doing it personal, and there's a lot of hoops. So if you just put it in, I'm sorry?
At the beginning, you mean?
Correct. True.
Yeah. It's kind of weird that they require all that documents, but when you transfer it over like 6 months down the road, it's not a big deal.
Easy.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the policy loans or any of that, because like you can take loans from it, even if it's owned by a trust too? Or does the
Mine
trust
is-
have to be loaned?
Mine was
Yeah.
empty, and I just moved it over.
Okay.
So when you set up from the beginning, they want everything, the bank information, all that has to match the owner of the policy at the beginning. So the bank who owns the account that the money's coming from or funding from has to be in the trust's name. And so this has come up with the client. They had to transfer everything over. It was a huge pain. Yeah.
And we're not giving legal advice, accounting advice.
We're not accountants or
advice.
lawyers.
Shauna, where's the banner?
Because
Yeah.
trusts are super complicated. I mean, there's folks here that have a very high understanding, like Brian, Craig, Joe, who have dealt with the trust structures and they've seen this. What Chris would say if Chris was here is have real clarity on what you need the trust for, what you're trying to accomplish, and what it is doing for your family. If you're doing it just to avoid paying taxes, that is not the reason to start a trust. So.
Very careful. Yeah.
Yep, I love it.
There's lots of different types of trusts where some of them you probably wouldn't want the trust to own the policy. So if you had a living trust, that's just from my perspective, the way I look at it. If you have a living trust, you're not really getting asset protection and tax advantages and those types of things. You're avoiding probate. So in that case, you may just want to make the policy the beneficiary and still retain ownership. So there's a lot of different ways you may go. Just depends on the type of trust and the structures, and there's a whole host of trust types out there.
And if they have crazy names in them, like they call them like vortex banking or different things like that, you might want to avoid those because trust, like whole life insurance from a mutually owned dividend paying company, has been around for 100+ years. It's part of every estate plan. It is something that we should all know about. Just don't run into it without having a clear vision.
And don't go to trust.com and pay $15 and get one. That's not a good idea either.
We have a couple follow-up
$19.99.
questions.
Thank you for making
Okay, so is it easy? Is it just as easy to make the trust the beneficiary?
Yes.
Yes. Nope.
Easier.
Yeah, especially, there's some other of our peers out there where when they talk about kids policies and other things, they say trust, they're talking about the beneficiary being the trust because if you don't have that clear delineation for someone that's a minor, then it will go to probate or it will go to whatever. So like if your kids are going to be the beneficiary, then that makes sense. If you want to control it, have it go to a trust. Again, not legal advice.
Got the disclaimer up there. I'm not taking it down until we're done with this topic. What's the benefit of having a trust owning the policy? You pretty much just got into that, right?
Well, it's and generational wealth is typically the main reason why a lot of people do that, so that you can have multiple policies owned by the same entity, and then you have your wishes built inside of the trust. So in case something happens to you as the head of the family, then your trust takes over and can manage those assets, the policies, and also you can actually have the trust be generational. So that's oftentimes the clients that I'm working with, that's why they're doing the trust as the owner, so that it's one private, privatizing the estate, but that's kind of why.
Well, there's a lot of benefits around asset protection. There's benefits of being able to use the cash value in the trust for trust things. So it's just like in some of the COLI policies where the corporation owns the policies, you don't want to cross that boundary of mixing personal and business. And this is just another way to keep things separate.
Looks like Steven's got a question or an answer.
Ready to answer the next question, baby.
We got one more after this. But
Panthers are closing it out, baby. Bring on the next round. Just for you, Carson. Cats, you go down. Let's go, Cats. All right, keep it going.
Okay, now it's saying, what are the benefits of getting started with a lump sum, and what are the downsides, such as commissions and fee differences?
Call me. So it depends on what you're, and we'll all have a little bit different opinion on this too, because it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. It also depends on your age. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on your income. If you're doing a dump in and it's going to buy a it's going to buy more life insurance on your body. So if it brings you to your maximum amount of insurance that you can carry on your body, then that kind of locks you in until you earn more money for a certain period of time. It might help you get to your immediate goal, but it might not help you get to where you're going in the long term, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So it depends. And as far as commissions and fees and differences, we can go into and tell you exactly how we're paid. We're paid on the base of the policy, what we're setting up. And so there's definitely less commission coming from a large dump in, but it's not really the questions that you want to be asking, because it's more about your goals and where you're trying to go.
And the dump in is all PUA. There's no base to it.
Yeah, which
makes it very liquid, right? So if you're doing a dump in, you have high liquidity within the first 30 days. So that's one of the benefits.
Yep.
I mean, from a downside perspective, I mean, we just have to, in the design considerations, there will be some term associated with that policy when you do the dump in. So at what point does that term become helpful or a hindrance? And I've done a couple policy designs just the last couple of weeks where we put in 20-year term riders so they could continue doing dump ins for the 20 years.
That's
and
cool.
It's a unique strategy, but there's some cool things you can do with it that way.
The other kind of thing to keep in mind too, when you do a large dump in, the premium might not, the minimum premium is going to be a bit higher than if you have no dump in. So something else to kind of keep in mind. Sometimes you'll see that. So the minimum premium you can reduce down might, instead of being maybe 40%, it might be like 50 or 60%. But we would walk you through all that kind of stuff before you do anything.
Yeah.
All right.
One more thing, real quick. No one said. The question was what are the upsides or downsides of doing a dump in, right? So if you have, I mean, it's not upside or downside of doing it. You're asking as if the policy is going to perform or look better, whether there's a dump in or not, which is a different conversation in itself. If you have money sitting in a bank, why would you not want it in your policy? So if you have money to put it in as a lump sum, then the answer is yes, you should do it. That's a better situation than not. So how the policy is different because of a dump in is a different question than like, should I do a dump in? Well, if you have money sitting there doing nothing, then yeah, you should. That it's not a should or not situation in that world. It's yeah, you probably should, but it's just saying it's different than what maybe you're asking.
I was just going to say it's universal that if we get any type of a product or service, we're getting it because we have a problem we're trying to solve with that. So depending on what your problem is, if that's money that you want to protect, that you have available and you want to preserve for your life and carry and bring over to your next generation, then that would be an ideal scene for a dump because that solves that problem. But if you're also wanting that high liquidity, guess what? A dump is good for that too because of where we put it into the booster, not the base, as Brian was saying. So it's all worth just a conversation. I will say when I didn't have any funds for a dump, that was a good solution, not doing a dump. But if I have the dollars, I want to protect them. So it made sense.
I don't want to say this is a downside, but isn't this a factor of like you can't just dump in a whole bunch of money and then do really, really small like monthly premiums, right? But there is that balancing act of the dump in amount. Like let's say you had $1 million sitting in a savings account, you can't then just start like a $500 a month policy. There's like a proportionate kind of balance that has to occur. Do you guys want to talk on that? Not that it's a downside of a dump in, but it is the dump in's there for you to use. Most of that is available, but then that factors into what?
I mean, I like to think of analogies. So if I'm baking a big cake, I need more eggs. If I'm baking a little cake, I need less eggs. But
yeah, that's good.
What Shauna is really talking about is as the dump in gets larger, the premium has to get larger. And Brian was mentioning that earlier too, which the reason all of that's in play, we can be thankful for the IRS modified endowment contract rules. And they're trying to set guidelines on how much premium is there in relation to the death benefit. And it would be great if we could get rid of those modified endowment contract rules and stuff as much as you want into, like back in 1986
and 7.
And in 88 the rules changed. So but yeah, those are very valid reasons, Shauna. So you're going to have to think about the mins and the max you can put into those policies.
It circles back to your problem. Is it solving your problem? We don't want it to be making new problems. So.
All right, we only got one question right now. So Damien, then get some questions in here for us, guys. So Damien saying, my question is about a goal I have. I am interested in buying an island in Florida. Is the forklift loan option a good start to get me there? Maybe buying land in Florida.
Maybe 100
I want an island. That's been a dream my whole life. I want an island.
That would be wonderful.
I think you'd want a skid steer instead of a forklift if you're building an island.
You want an island?
A bulldozer.
Bulldozers, yeah.
But do we think the forklift opportunity is a good starting investment? I think is the question. I know some of us have done the forklifts. I know I had done 2 a couple of years ago. I think time's just going so fast. I've been out of the forklift. So I did 2 forklifts, but it's been a while. I'm into different investments now. So
I haven't done the forklifts myself, but I do know about how the deals are structured, and sometimes there can be a little bit of a delay before that sale, so that could have an impact on the overall earning potential, and you're trying to compound at this point if you're trying to buy an island. So I would be wanting to make sure that I'm investing for contracts that are setting an actual set period of time that I'm going to be getting my returns, and I know that it's collateral backed and following all my rules as a responsible banker. That's the mindset I would have in that if I were you.
I like it. And to correct, he is talking about an island in Florida.
Nice.
But yeah, the forklifts are collateral back too. But like you said, Bree, there's not that definitive timeline. Like there's some people, like the first one sold in 3 months for me. The second one sold in 5. And then some people have sat on something for, 14 months. So I don't know. All right. Anyone want to add anything? We only got one other question so far.
You can barely buy a 1/4 acre lot in Florida for $200 to $650 right now. So I don't know where you're seeing islands, Damien. Just be very careful on that. What they mean by island.
By the Everglades.
Is there like an island in the middle of the Everglades that they're talking about? I don't know, but it doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah, seriously, you can't buy a lot on a lake here in Orlando area for less than like $1 million at this moment. So,
damn it, I missed my window to come down. Sorry, guys.
Oh, it's coming. Don't worry. I'm sure there'll be opportunities soon. So,
Okay.
I like Shane's feedback to No's comment there.
Yeah, I had to restructure my question, especially when I started. Okay. Shane saying, does the term on the dump in become something you can use to open another policy once the term is no longer needed on the original policy? These term riders.
it depends on the kind of, well, we'll let Craig take this. I think he knows more than anyone else here about this, but it depends on the type of rider, Shane, and depends on the company. But most of the time it will be a convertible term, and you can typically convert that after the MEC 7 pays over. So years 8, 9, or 10 is typically what I've been told. Now I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot more, but that's what I know to date. So
I'm actually going through this with someone right now. We're trying to figure out if they can convert some of their term in their existing policy to permanent. So they wouldn't be taking the term rider into a whole new policy, but they'd be converting some of that term in their existing policy to permanent insurance. Now, the challenge is if you do it too early, it could mech the policy. And so there's just a lot of considerations that need to be made. So it's one of those. So what we would need to do, Shane, is we could just have Lafayette run a what if. Let's say that you had 150,000 of term you want to convert to permanent, we just have them run the numbers and they could tell us whether it's going to MEC or not.
Yeah, and that's a portion of it, right? And Shane, I know which policy you're talking about. So you knew what Craig said and know that the consideration will be there because your policy is still fairly new, within 2 to 3 years old. So you're still within, unless you're making a, what's it called, change to it that affects when the MEC restarts to a policy.
It's a material change.
A material change. If you're not doing that, then you have that 7-year period before you're really looking to convert, probably. Now you've locked in your insurability, which is good. I mean, that's another reason that having a dump-in's not necessarily eating up all your human life value for someone that was asking that earlier question, like what are the downsides of a dump-in? So that makes sense.
Yes, and then Nasa saying, so my dump-in affects my monthly premiums. I know it depends on the policy and or the amount dumped in, but let's say I'm trying to use a reasonable number such as 50,000. What would be like a sustainable premium?
There's so many factors involved in that. It's kind of hard to say, but take that and divide it by 7 or 8. That's kind of like the minimum starting point. But
yeah, depending on their age, we could maybe push that a little higher, but we need to know a little more details. But say 50K could be 6, 7K minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that wouldn't be monthly. That would be annual. But yeah.
Joe is saying, I want to talk to someone about this. What is the phone number?
911.
I had to call 911 a couple weeks ago. It was not fun. I'm going to put the link in the chat. It's mentors.beyourownbanker.com. And that's our calendar.
Click that link, Mr. Joe. Not you, he lost, Joe.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but Joe can't use technology. We're good.
All right. And then NASA saying, building on that, more for Joe HELOC, would I be able to pay my monthly premium through my HELOC? Could you briefly touch on the HELOC BYOB combination?
The HELOC would be the nucleus. Every penny that comes into the house runs into the HELOC, and then you would run that money through the policy. If every penny that you have is in the HELOC, you have to pay your electric bill, your gas bill. Oh, there it is. Out of the HELOC. So the money would be running from the HELOC into the policy and then back into the HELOC, because we wouldn't want to keep our cash value in the policy while we're paying interest on the money that's out of the HELOC. Once we acquire enough money in the HELOC to put into an opportunity, we'll run it into the investment. Now you have your W-2, your interest, your rental income, yada, yada, everything going back into the HELOC. And when it's time to pay the policy again, what do? Run it back through the policy, rinse and repeat.
How do you repay your policy loans in this scenario, Joe?
Well, when the $100,000 comes back in from the opportunity, it would go back into the policy if you wanted to.
I love it.
Or you could fill up your HELOC.
Yep.
When you have $1 million working for you and you owe 500 of the HELOC and 500 of the policy, that means you're debt free, and that $1 million out working for you can just come in and fill anything up. And then you keep on using it and making it work. Now you're at 1.5 million out working for you. Now you have more money that can even fit into the HELOC or the policy. And you keep on using leverage and arbitrage and keep on growing. I will gladly borrow 8% from the bank to make 24, 12. Anything more, that's arbitrage. Leverage and arbitrage make the world go round.
Jason, that was one of those things where Joe's doing his clicking and his sticking.
Clicking and popping. Clicking and popping, yes. It's almost like when you were on your mission trip, right?
That was awesome.
Joe, do you make loans from you personally, or do you run them through an LLC?
When you ask me stuff personally, I've been doing this for quite some time, so I have like 4 different buckets that I do everything out of. So in order for that answer, yes. I loan from me personally. I loan for my self-directed. I loan for my LLC. So yes.
He is out there loaning. All right. Gabrielle is saying, my son was going to purchase a house, but decided to wait 18 months, she corrected, while he finishes school. He's 21 and he has $30,000. Would this be a good strategy to purchase a house in 18 months?
Not financial advice.
Depending on what state it is, but absolutely by getting into simple interest on day one, opposed to paying anything in amortization, just like Bree. I mean, go ahead. What did you pay in 1 year to your mortgage, and what did you pay back into your HELOC in 1 month? You're on mute.
14 months in the mortgage, 42,000. That's $3,000 a month. That reduced the principal by a couple $1,000s. And in the first month with the HELOC, I reduced the principal by $18,500, and the dollars were available.
And that's only,
Texas.
and that's only 1
we have
year.
banks for Texas.
Yep, we do now.
Now, one thing to consider, I mean, if he's that young, why is he looking to go buy a liability as his first thing out of college? Why not go get an asset that could actually start cash flow, start building wealth when you're that young?
Get a duplex.
Yeah, get a duplex, live in half of it, rent out the other half, fix up one half, move it, flip it over, fix up the other half, rinse and repeat, build wealth. Because I mean, what's the reason for having a house at 21 or 22 years old? Is kind of a good question to think about. Because when I first bought my house, I realized I wish I'd never had. I could have gotten an asset with the bank financing, got an asset that then cash flows. Man, it would have completely changed my trajectory. So just something to consider.
Yeah, that's always such an interesting topic. There's so many different things people value, like a house or whatever. So Kohi, I hope I'm saying that right, is saying, I'm looking for a CPA in Washington. Do you have any leads? And what questions should I ask or things to look out for? I'm not very knowledgeable about financial stuff. I drag hose for a living.
So I used to live in Washington. I don't think I ever used, no, there's one business I used a CPA in Washington, but the rest of my businesses use CPAs outside of Washington because I go where the quality CPAs are, and I don't care if they're in my state, as long as they can operate there. So we have some good ones that we've used or can recommend if you want to reach out to our team personally, but it depends on what you want that CPA to do. What are you trying to, are they doing tax filing, tax strategy, bookkeeping? What do you want them to do for you? Because if you're not knowledgeable about financial stuff, you've got to have a good CPA then that can help you out. But it depends on what you need them for.
I mean, there's a difference if you just have a W-2 or if you have an LLC or if you have a portfolio of 20 rentals. I mean,
100%.
it's totally different.
100%.
All right. So we don't have any, we probably don't have a CPA for that. Or do we? Brent Carlson, maybe?
Look for CPA. How many leads? Yeah, I mean, I would definitely chat. It depends if you're looking for a tax strategy. I mean, they do have CPA services, so maybe start there.
How do you want them to get in contact?
Just email me. snagy@chrisnoggle.com is good.
Okay. We don't have any questions right now. Just a shout out saying, hey, finally made it to one. Shout out to Carson, starting policy with him soon.
Graham in Santa. Oh, all right. We got Gabrielle in Texas. Look at that glamour shot, though. Like it.
I'll do a quick little kind of announcement thing. So next week on the Wealth Wednesday webinar, we're going to be doing actual client case studies. So going through what our actual clients have used policies for, what they've accomplished, what they've achieved with policies. So one, if any of the mentors have clients that they think would want to share, let me know. And then anybody who's on here right now or listening to this who has done some pretty cool things would love to share and help more people understand how infinite banking can impact their lives. reach out to us, reach out to me. I'll put my email address in here as well, but reach out to me because I'd love to share some of your stories to help more people. That's going to be the focus of the Wealth Wednesday webinar next week.
Fun.
Okay. Does anyone out there and ask me anything right now want to do that with Brian next week? Tell him, share your story.
Shane said he would already to me.
Sweet.
Hey, while they're doing that, I want to get Money Tank out there. So we just opened up a virtual option for the Private Money Club Money Tank event in Dallas, Texas next week. I'd like to invite anybody that's on to take advantage of the virtual discount code that we're using for all of our live shows this week. So if you really want to attend Private Money Club, Money Tank just can't make it to Dallas, go ahead and go over to privatemoneyclub.com/Money Tank and then use the discount code DMT, Dallas Money Tank, DMT 100 for $100 off. And that'll turn the virtual ticket into. And Shauna, is Dallas Central Time? These are local times, just so everybody knows. So this is going to be 9 to 5 local time, which I think might be Central Time.
Yep, Central.
Yep, it's Central, so it's an hour, but like we're in, Eastern, so it's
8 to 4,
11.
8 to 4 East Coast, so 8 to 4 East Coast time. So you can adjust from there. But we do have a couple general admission tickets left. It's about full, but VIP sold out last week, and then we just opened up the virtual option. So you'll receive a replay, 30-day replay as well. So if you miss any of it, you can watch the replays. But it'll be really good, very interactive. We have some sessions planned when we're doing some networking stuff for the virtual crowd. So $197, but use the code DMT100 for $100 off to make it $97, and it's going to be really valuable, especially those of you using policies, looking to invest. You're going to learn a lot. And if you're looking for any tax strategies, we're going to have a couple people that are really getting deep on some really cool opportunities for taxes. So it's going to be a really valuable course. Of course, being there in person, you can't beat that. But in case you can't make it, hop on with a virtual ticket for sure. All right,
come on, guys, get those questions in there.
Who's going to win the Stanley Cup, Carson?
Not the Golden Knights, I don't think. I don't know. The Stars might win it, guys. You might be in Dallas. You guys should go to a game.
Have they released the schedule yet?
No, they're not in the second round yet, but they will be. Yeah, they'll definitely have a game while you're there. You're there like what, 3 days? 4 days? Yeah.
Yeah, we have things planned though. Like, well, first night is the VIP dinner at Medieval Times. Second night is the whole thing going. I have to give up my Medieval Times ticket and.
Steve's coming. He's saying, looking forward to meeting you guys in there in person. I know Brent's going to be there. And then, Joe, you can go over how we are going to buy my daughter's car once her policy is approved.
Very cool.
So Brent is getting a policy. He's putting money into it. And then she's going to lend him money. And then Brent is going to pay interest to the daughter so that when they go to the dealership, get a car for $400, yada, yada, her money is running through the policy, and then the interest will be covering the price of the car. So she's taking her money, running it through the policy, putting it into the investment, making money in two places, and utilizing the interest to cover the car payment. You went from unmute to mute. Yeah. Oh, we lost you.
We lost you. We can read your body language. Yeah, yeah, we are.
I was gonna say that's one way to get your dad to pay for your car. I love that.
Make him want to do it.
That's a great way to teach legacy and to pass this on too. I mean, one of the biggest things when we're talking about infinite banking and the guaranteed legacy and everything else is really getting your kids involved, the education of it, what Brent's doing that Joe just described. And that's a really powerful story.
Love it. And then Dexter's saying, I'm late to the party. What did I miss? There's no questions yet. So, not yet. We've covered some, but we got time for more.
You gonna be in Texas, Big D?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Big D. All right.
Big D at the Big D, baby.
Wow. Snaggy, you don't have more to go from that on your radio DJ voice that you're practicing?
Well, I'm going to wear I'm actually from Dexter right here. I got it ready to go. Let me show you guys. So if I get on the show, I know it's radio only, but I'm definitely rocking this because I am known in the radio world as the real Slim Snaggy, dude. So I'm the real Slim Snaggy. I'm ready to go. Compliments of Mr. Big D.
Can we get to that question with the insanity one up there?
Dexter's blushing.
Yes. Is it okay to not take out cash value right away? Like I was told I have that option, but I feel like letting it compound a little more than starting to borrow.
This is a good question because it's a reminder that what we teach with BYOB is about leveraging via loans against the cash value. You aren't withdrawing and taking out the cash value compounding in your policy. You leverage against it. You're collecting arbitrage, right? We're looking for that spread from the difference of the simple interest of what we are paying for the opportunity to borrow versus where we put the dollars into debt, in investments, whatever the case is. So it will be compounding. That we do that because loans cannot be taxed and because it allows the dollars in the cash value to continue compounding even when we're using them.
I love that, Bree. And another, I guess, point of this or take on this is Americans are horrible at saving. Horrible. Since 1985, we've averaged less than 5%. So in changing the one thing, paying ourselves first, like Joe's going to tell you, the only thing that on his wall is, money in motion makes more money. But if you're not saving now and you start a policy for savings to build up an opportunity cost, so he or she who has money, like the opportunities will find you. There's nothing wrong with starting a policy for savings to build it up over time, to build that habit, that discipline of taking care of yourself. And then you can go and learn how to make money and do what Joe's talking about and do what we're teaching and other things. Like being your own banker doesn't mean that this is coming from talking to someone who came to me a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't shared this with you guys yet. I haven't had an opportunity, but she's telling me like, look, I don't think banking's working. And she was like 5 years into it. And I was like, tell me more. What do you mean? And she's like, well, I went, and she's in real estate. She's like, real estate's not doing as good right now. And, I'm starting to feel a little stressed about not doing annual. I'm like, well, change the mode of payment. And then the next thing was, well, what's happening? Like, why do you think it's not working? Well, I lent out this much to 25 grand and the money's gone and went bankrupt and it's not coming back. I lend out 15 grand and it's also bankrupt and I might get the money back over the next 5 years. And, my comment was, I don't think you have a banking problem. I think you have a knowing what you know, like, and understand investing problem of learning that step. Because I get all the time, like I was just chatting with someone who started later on. She's making really good money now, but she's feeling this pressure of needing to move the money to make money. And I keep telling her, listen, keep building up that opportunity fund until you find something like and understand. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Like there isn't a better warehouse to store your wealth. There isn't a better place where it's growing guaranteed, where even if you use it, it's still growing, where it's protected from the law, right? Liens and judgment, where it is liquid, where it's doing all these. There's not another storage unit that's better than this. And I think we forget that sometimes.
I love it. We did get a lot of questions. I don't want to cut you off, Bree, but I just want to say we did get a lot of questions for the last 10 minutes. So you can keep going, but I was
just going to say, based off, you added that 5% of people being able to save anything. For the last 100 years, it has been the top 1% saving an average of 40% of their earnings. And that's because they're spending interest, not principal. So being able to store your principal in places where it's protected and growing, but even when you're leveraging it, it's still growing and working for you. That's optimal. That's following the wealth.
That's efficiency.
Love it. Derek's saying, what would you suggest doing to move from an FHA loan to a first lien HELOC? How much do I need to pay down the mortgage to be able to move on to the first lien HELOC?
The difference between the LTV that you're asking for.
You need 15%. So if the house is 100,000 and you can get a first lien for 85,000, you would need 15% in equity. And if you're moving from an FHA loan to a first lien, you won't have to pay PMI anymore. And that's the only way for you to stop that. Because even if you stay forever with that FHA loan, that PMI never drops off. So you're going to have to refinance and get out of it at some point in time. So as soon as you get 15% equity in your house, make the move.
All right. Next question is, do the carriers you work with send a check or ACH the amount when you take a loan against your policy?
Either or, whatever you choose.
Your choice.
It's a bubble
was to get the ACH, you need the direct deposit form set up. So they'll send you a check if you ask for the loan and you don't have that set up yet. But then you get it set up and they ACH.
All right. And then Derek is saying, how do you fund your policy? Is it a yearly premium or monthly premium?
Whatever you want.
It depends for anybody.
Mm-hmm. I guess also, like, how do you guys have yours set up? That's a question. I know we always say what they could do anything, but how are yours set up?
My first was monthly. Then I switched it to semi-annual when I got out of debt. Then I switched it to annual. It's been annual since. All my new policies for my husband and myself are annual. This next one for my hubby is going to be monthly. So you can stack them. Depends on the money.
All of mine are annual.
Most of Chris's are either monthly, or he has one's quarterly, I think he shared, right? Mine are annual, but it really depends on how you cash flow. My wife actually asked me today, why don't we change to monthly? And so kind of having that discussion in our home. So,
Carson or Craig, are you guys annual?
All annual.
Okay.
I'm monthly right now.
Mine are all annual too.
Okay. I have annual and
you,
quarterly.
Shauna? There you go.
I got 2 quarterly and 1 annual. Okay, Sarah is saying, do the monthly premiums or quarterly or annual premiums go towards building up the savings to borrow from, or can you only borrow from the larger cash dumps?
See, this is awesome. This is why, you don't need to do a dump in. They're not required. We just work with a lot of investors or people who are bringing more money to the table and they want the higher liquidity, the higher early cash value. But no, Sarah, I mean, if you're just building it up over time, that every time you're making a deposit, it is going towards your cash value.
And
there's the way we design them, at least.
Yeah, there's 2 buckets that your premiums will go towards. When you have a dump, it's going to go into the PUA bucket. That's your banking bucket. That's going towards the cash value. If you have the premium, that's going to be a portion going towards the base bucket for the whole life vehicle, and then a portion going to the PUA. And possibly if you had a big enough dump, you may have term. That is another bucket.
Rapid fire, 6 minutes.
Yeah. Shane saying, what room do you leave in your policies in general? I realize Joe's is a keep it in motion philosophy. Is there a per engage that some of you prefer to leave available?
Now, that's a great question. I was actually thinking about this today, Shane, as well. I was telling Patty, because we're using the first lien HELOC, and then we have some money in the policy, but then, Joe would tell me, no, take it all out of the policy, put it in the HELOC. And some of what I was thinking about of that journey of being a banker, because it is a lifelong journey. Like anything you hear us talking about, it is subject to change based on what we learned. and what our needs are and where we're going in life. So what I was telling Patty is, I would like to have more of the philosophy of, other than paying the simple interest, which I've been doing for our policies, how do we store more money in the policy? How much are we storing so we can build up that opportunity fund? Because right now I've been doing what Joe's teaching, just it goes in, I'm moving it out, I'm looking to make money coming back in, but also thinking, okay, how can I build a little bit more stability and money that's accessible for the what if moments?
But that's the amount of money that you're building inside the HELOC. You're going to be building it. 10 goes out, 5 comes in, $5,000 a month. After 6 months, now you can deploy that 30. If you take that 30 and leave it in the policy, that is doing you no good, because now you're paying interest on money you have. The interest that you're paying out towards the policy and the dividends that you're receiving are almost negating it by 1.52%. You're paying 6 to 8% in the HELOC.
But if you don't have the HELOC, Joe, it's good to. If you don't have the HELOC, though.
Yeah, but Jason does have the HELOC, so that HELOC you're paying 6 to 8%, and that's a liability. Your policy is an asset from day one. So you better get that money out of that cash value and put it back in that HELOC where it belongs.
Because your dollars already went through once
you opened up
the policy, they were captured. So they're always going to be working for you in the policy. But the dollars that are absent from the line of credit, you're paying interest on. So why would you want the dollars that you have to be doing you the same amount of work in the policy that they would be if they were in the HELOC, and just costing yourself that money for interest?
Jason knows he's going to get a phone call now.
No, that's good. I mean, this is why we do this, because you have to be open to learning, right? Like that was one of the things I was thinking about is really having that philosophy of always having a plan to pay yourself back. Now, I have the plan when the money comes back that's out of how to pay that back. But some of these are the questions that Shane and others I'm certain have. Like I have no problem saying, hey, I don't know the answer.
In the beginning, when we're building our cash and it needs to be in the HELOC. Once you pay off your house 2, 3, 4 times, and you're making $100,000 a month, well, now you can take it and stick it wherever you want, because now you're in control of your money and you're making it. But in the beginning, we want to squeeze the nickel till the buffalo poops. You know what I mean? So that's what we got to do. And that's how we utilize the HELOC.
Oh, between that and Joe being a ranch in Wyoming, because it's wide, the boundaries are wide and vast. I mean, pull clips from this one. Those are the two. Those are the two. Squeeze a nickel to the buffalo poops, and Joe is like a ranch in Wyoming. His boundaries are wide and vast.
And that's where the buffalo roam.
Yes, that's where the buffalo gets squeezed. And Shane, I know you were on the wealth webinar, and we talked about some of this on the wealth webinar today. So if you missed it, you'll have to go see the replay. But I was kind of sharing my strategy with what I've been doing over the years, which is looking at, from an investment perspective, I don't just look at, is there money to deploy? I'll look at how much capital is at risk, how much capital is at rest, how much capital do I have still on a loan in my policies or my warehouse. And so all of those things are factors for me to either build more policies or to deploy more money, because I like to have dry powder, as they say, for opportunity funds, for emergency funds, I just sleep better when I have some money in the warehouse.
But how many times have you paid off your house?
I lost track. I think it's 4, maybe.
Thank you. See what I mean? You can't do that when you're in the build stage.
Yeah.
What did you do 5 years ago? You weren't doing the same thing as you're doing it today.
That's right, because my first lien HELOC I started 4 years ago.
See, it changes. It changes as you acquire more and get more out, making you more. So there's stages as you go.
Where I'm at, brand new stage.
I think we could talk about this more. I think this is a powerful conversation, because we often go to the stage where where Joe's at, paying the house off 5 times, where Craig's at. I think a lot of people here, myself included, are like, I've been 9 months into the HELOC. That's it.
Exactly. Every penny needs to go into that HELOC you're losing money, valuable money that is stuck in that cash value. If you have $10,000 in a cash value account, that's $10,000 that you're paying interest on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and part of what we were talking about on Wealth Webinar that I've been doing is I have this whole free the capital mentality of, and the example we went through is if you deployed 100,000 at 12%, and that's what you had out, it would take you about 8 years for it to get paid all back. When you have 200 working to free up 100, it takes half that time, maybe 4 years. When you have 500 clearing 100, it takes maybe a year and a half. And so the more capital you have out working, it can clear those new deployments faster and faster.
Yep.
And that's why the houses keep getting paid off that Joe and I keep talking about, is the house keeps getting paid off faster and faster. Redeploy, make more policies, put money out there to work, have it pay it back.
Yep. You got it.
Herminio is coming to Money Tank, I believe, and he said, I have a TSP which will be available in 3 years. Thinking for the future policy, would you suggest a dump in or a monthly payment due to the taxation of the TSP funds?
I'd want to get the taxes out of the way as soon as possible and be done with it. But
is he going to the Dallas? You said he is going to Dallas?
Yeah.
I think so. Possibly virtual, though. So
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't remember if it was virtual or in person.
So I know there are some unique strategies. If you were to move that over to self-directed, and then you can do some of the mineral rights that Troy Eckert and the group talk about. There are ways to reduce the taxation of moving that money into like a Roth. So may want to investigate that, but.
Okay, so maybe we'll hit on that on Money Tank a little bit more.
Yep.
Jared is saying, how long does PMI have to be on your mortgage?
A conventional.
Go ahead.
A conventional is until you get 20% in. PMI falls off at 20% when you have an 80 to 20 valuation. But with an FHA, stays on forever.
What is PMI? I don't even know.
Personal mortgage insurance, private mortgage,
yeah.
private mortgage insurance. That's the extra fee that the bank says, okay, we'll give you a mortgage, but we're going to charge you X amount per month just for insurance in case you forfeit or don't pay the loan or.
Okay, so it's the house's term rider. I got it. I got you.
Yeah. The house term rider.
Useless. Just kidding. Okay, and then, but Joe, you said 85%, or it was 80, right? 20%.
So for the first lien, to get the first lien, it's $1,585, correct?
Okay.
15% equity. But for a conventional, for the PMI, that would be an 80-20.
All right. And then Anna is saying, what are your feelings of using the HELOC to fund your whole life policy?
Depends.
I love the diagram. If we have one, it's there.
I think we need Joe's picture again.
Oh, good. It's a scam.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
But it depends. I don't want people taking $100,000 from their HELOC, running it into the policy, and then sticking it back into the HELOC. You can't. That's a double black hole. I need it to go and make money. I mean, it's not a simple thing. So it's different for everybody. So we need to talk and figure out a game plan. And are we going to take out debt with it? Or what problem are we solving? That's the key.
What a good use case for somebody who does. I mean, a lot of people, I think that's one of their biggest assets is like the equity in their home. But then what a good, if you don't know how to do that yet, would you go and just get a policy for what you truly can do with your actual cash flow, with what you're able to do, learn banking that way, start your next policy with the HELOC. Would that be the best way to do that?
I'm going to tell you today, I had a call. and we set it up at $1,400 a month. He, in the last week, went to the bank and got a personal PLOC for $10,000. And he says, what do you think? Should I run this through the policy as a dump and then use it to pay off the credit cards? And I says, no, I don't want you to use this $10,000 loan. If you had $10,000 in savings account, absolutely, all day long, let's put it in as the dump and then we can use it to pay the credit cards. But you're paying 13% on this PLOC. And then you're going to put it into the policy and then take it out of the policy and then pay off the credit cards. I said, absolutely not. What we're going to do is take the 13 PLOC. We're going to knock out the credit cards that are 26 and 28% of the 10,000 and consolidate that portion. And then the 1,400 that's running through, we'll take $1,000 out every month and apply it to those credit cards and the PLOC and knock it down until his credit score gets into the 700s. And then we're going to go and switch everything into a HELOC and do the one pot system. But he needs to get his credit score up to 700 first and knock out some of the credit cards. But absolutely not. Just like Jason was shaking his head. We're not going to take that PLOC, run it through the policy. No, that doesn't work that way. I don't want that.
I like it. So he's going to do a $1,400 a month policy for a while. Probably when he gets his house in order, his credit cards and his house, he'll use his house to probably do another policy with you a year from now or something like that. Yeah.
As soon as we flip it around, then he'll get more money and equity from the house, and then we'll get another policy. Absolutely, we can always grow.
Yeah. So Stephen, you ended the Wealth Wednesday webinar this way a little bit too, saying you gotta crawl before you can stand before you can walk before you can run, something like that. And I feel like I hear you all out there with your HELOCs, and it's there for you, but I feel like that's more of like the walking to running. And so like, let's just get you crawling and standing. And then you can be like, we all have multiple policies. So you can be just like us with that HELOC in a year from now or whatever. So that's my suggestion.
Joe may have come from HELOC first, then IBC a few years down the road, but I came from clutches of poverty, IBC first, now going into HELOC. So there's so many ways. You're right. We just need to chat with them and see what their needs are.
And then we'll just end on this question, I think, real quick, is that little brown dog is saying, what about funding your premium deposit with a policy loan?
I don't like it.
I think it's like a last ditch effort. Like I almost had to do that once, and it's not the way to go, because it's almost like not paying that premium deposit, like in a way. But it is a way to like keep a policy alive. But I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely an option if you need to, if you have to. That is actually the original reason why policy loans came into being, is so that people could keep their policies. But for those out there that are thinking, I'm going to get a policy, take a loan out, start another policy, or use that to pay my premiums, can it work if you're very diligent and you know how to make it all work? It can, but it just introduced so much risk. I don't like it, and I've seen it fail more times than I've seen it work.
It's like the over leveraging like banks do, right? We've seen 567 banks go bust because they were just digging in, and they weren't focused on the right sources. So
we're teaching elementary IBC structuring, and doing that would be PhD IBC. So
well, would it be fair to say, if you made that premium deposit with a policy loan, you're essentially making that premium deposit 5%, cost you 5% more than if you just paid it with cash, because it's now a loan that has 5%?
Depends on what year are you in.
Okay.
You gonna do it in year 11, or are we gonna do it in year 1? I mean, are we already making 200% on our policy, or are we negative by 13%? Just depends.
And Eve just popped in and she said, that's where I'm at, because none of my borrowers are paying and I'm still paying on HELOCs. Right? So they're not paying. And it is a thing to do, Eve, to keep your policies alive, but it shouldn't be the initial strategy.
And it actually, if you think down the road, you get to retirement where the policy's been around, seasoned. There are strategies where you can just take loans from it for retirement income and never pay them back. So you can use dividends to pay some of the premium. So there are strategies to do that, but it's not something you do at the start of a policy or even in the early years. Because it's almost like a plant. You plant the seed, you need that seed to grow, you need it to strengthen, you need to get to strong, and then you can pick the fruits from it. But it's in the early years, you're not going to be picking the fruits from it, having it, pay its own premiums.
Yeah. Things turn around and are different once you have achieved that cash on cash. Once the policy becomes efficient, the rules kind of could change a little bit. Depends on how you're utilizing it.
All right, I love it.
I got one quick question. Did any of you guys do the California license, that certification? Do you know where I find that?
I got it.
I think your license went into effect.
No, it's not for me. It's not for me. I need to just give it to somebody else. So did you?
Yeah, right.
I do not.
Reach out to Sam. He's got the link.
Brianna has it.
He does? Oh, Bri, you got it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have it here on the computer, but I can get it to you.
I texted it over. I'll send it to you.
I don't think this is helping our audience.
Wrap us up, Shauna.
That's right. FCAT Dallas, baby.
How do you guys handhold? There's the last question.
Oh, yeah. So speaking of, FCAT just put in that we're going to Dallas next week, and that kind of ties into Anna's question. Do you guys handhold anyone to learn how to invest in an opportunity? So I guess that's the perfect. We do an event that really lays out all of that, which is called the Private Money Club Money Tank, and it's actually happening next week in Dallas, Texas. It's 2 days. It's on Thursday and Friday. They're 2 very long days, and it kind of goes over all of that. That would be a very good first step. And then from there, you get introduced to people that very well could handhold you through investment properties, someone like Kevin Shortell or things like that. There's a lot of further education from the Private Money Club. So I would suggest next week, you can get a virtual ticket as well if you want to join us on Zoom. And I will put the link in the chat. I don't know, anything else on Money Tank? Did I do that okay?
Very well done.
DMT 100 for a virtual discount.
Is there still tickets for the actual in-person? I'm going to send this to a couple people right now.
Yeah, actually, so there is a couple tickets for in-person left. Just for general admission, the VIP is sold out. And if you want to give a coupon code too, you can do Premier 200. We'll take $200 off the general admission ticket.
Are you going to pop that in the chat too before we wrap up?
Yeah, I'll do that too. So Premier 200 will take the GA ticket down. All right.
Where do they go? privatemoneyclub.com?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, privatemoneyclub.com/moneytank. DMT 100 will be a virtual discount, so you can watch it on Zoom. It's like 9 to 5 local time there in Texas, so Central Time. Oh, great. And then Anna actually has a call with somebody today to be part of a success story, so that's awesome. Well, hopefully we'll see that Money Tank.
Awesome job.
All right. That's it. I don't know how to press the video, so you can just hit end.
I think Snaggy does. Snaggy, you know how to press the button for the outro?
I'm good at pressing buttons, so let's see here. Somebody do an outro. Say bye.
Well, we're going to wrap up Wednesday. Thank you for coming. Next week, bring all of your questions, and those in Dallas, we'll see you there. Those not in Dallas, we'll see you in a week.
Very good. Go Cats. Bye.